Kidney disease is not an equal opportunity disease, and I need y'all to sit with that for a second. That's uncomfortable to hear, isn't it? It should be. But if we're going to save lives, we have got to tell the truth, even when the truth doesn't make for a pretty caption. Because where you live, what grocery stores that might actually be in your neighborhood, whether your doctor listened to you or looked at the clock while you were talking, whether you had a car or a ride or a way to take off work without losing your check, whether anybody in your family ever even knew to ask about their kidneys, all of that, every single one of those things can determine whether you meet a nephrologist sitting calmly in a clinic chair, sipping water, going over labs, or whether you meet one for the first time in an ICU with a central line already in your neck because nobody caught it in time. I'm Erica, a family nurse practitioner, founder of Care Angel LLC, and you guys know me as the Neighborhood NP. And today we are talking about why kidney disease devastates so many Black, Brown, Indigenous, and underserved communities, and more importantly, what we're going to do to actually make a difference. This is not going to be a lecture. This is going to be a conversation somebody should have had with your family a long time ago. So let's have it now. Let me tell you about a patient. I'm going to change the details to protect them, but I promise you the story is real, and I promise you it is not rare. She was 58, raised her kids, raised some of her grandkids too, worked a whole life, and for 2 years she kept telling people the same thing. I'm just tired. My blood pressure's been a little high, but it's fine. My sugar ain't been acting right, but I'll deal with it after the holidays. Nobody was ignoring her because they didn't love her. They were ignoring her because that's what we've all been trained to do. Push through, handle it, don't complain, get back to work. By the time she landed in front of a nephrology, her kidneys were functioning at 11%. 11! She didn't get a slow, gentle conversation about diet changes and follow-up labs in 6 months. She got a conversation about emergency dialysis that same week. The tragedy in that story isn't only that kidney disease happened to her. Kidney disease happens. Bodies fail. That's not what makes me angry. What makes me angry is that there were dozens of opportunities over years for someone to catch this. A simple urine test, a basic metabolic panel, a doctor who took 30 extra seconds to ask, when's the last time we checked your kidney function? And somehow, none of those opportunities landed. This is not a medical failure, this is a systems failure, and today we're going to name it. Now let me be real clear about something before we go any further, because I don't want anybody hearing this the wrong way. This is not about blaming doctors. It isn't about blaming patients. Today it's not about politics. It's about understanding the conditions that make kidney disease harder to prevent, harder to catch, and harder to treat if you happen to be born in certain zip codes, certain incomes, and certain skin. Because once we actually understand the problem for real, without flinching, that's when we can finally build something better. Let's talk numbers for a second. I promise I'll keep it plain, no nurse jargon, straight talk, nurse to neighbor. Here's what the data tells us. Black Americans make up around 13% of the population in this country, but we account for roughly 1 in 3 people living with kidney failure. 1 in 3. Our Native American communities are diagnosed at nearly double the rate of white Americans, and often later, when there are few treatment options left on the table. Now, some folks hear numbers like that and their mind goes straight to biology, straight to, well, maybe it's genetic. And I want to stop that thought right there because it's lazy and it's not the full truth. Yes, there are some genetic factors that play a role. We're not going to pretend that's zero, but genetics is not the only reason a Black grandmother in an under-resourced neighborhood ends up in dialysis 5 years before a white grandmother with the exact same diagnosis history. The real drivers are the ones we don't like putting on flyers. Diabetes and high blood pressure, the 2 biggest causes of kidney disease, are more common in our communities. And why is that? Food deserts, where the closest thing to fresh produce is sitting wilted on a shelf at the gas station. Diabetes and high blood pressure, the 2 biggest causes of kidney disease, are more common in our community. And why is that? Food deserts, where the closest thing to freshest produce is what's sitting wilted on a shelf in a gas station. Chronic stress from just trying to survive in a system that wasn't built with you in mind. Limited access to preventative care, Because when you don't have insurance, or you don't have a car, or you can't afford to miss a shift, preventative becomes a luxury word. Add on top of that insurance gaps, transportation barriers, historic and ongoing distrust of a medical system that has at times earned that distrust. Put all of that together and you don't get a mystery, you get a math problem. And the math has been adding up against us for generations. And here's the part that really gets me heated. It's not just that we get sick more, it's that when we do get sick, we get caught later and we get treated less aggressively. Studies show that people in under-resourced communities are less likely to see a nephrologist before they hit dialysis, less likely to get referred for a transplant evaluation, and less likely to even be told a transplant is an option for them. Period. Let that sink in. Somebody can be sitting in the exact same waiting room with the exact same labs and walk out with two completely different conversations, depending on what they look like, what their insurance card says, and how the provider perceives them. I've seen it. I've been in those rooms. I've watched a patient get brushed off with, let's just keep an eye on it, when another patient, same numbers, got an immediate referral. That's not always malicious. Most of the time, it's not some doctor twirling a mustache, trying to hurt Black and brown patients. That's not always malicious. It's biased, baked in so deep that most people carrying it don't even know it's there. It's a system moving fast, running on assumption, and those assumptions are not neutral. But here's what I need y'all to understand. Whether it's intentional or not, the outcome is the same. Somebody's mama, somebody's uncle, somebody's pastor, somebody who just kept saying, I'm just tired, ended up starting dialysis in crisis mode because they weren't prepared and no one gave them any options. It does not have to keep happening like this. So let me say something plainly, because I think we dance around it too much. Black skin is not different. Brown kidneys are not different. What is different is opportunity. Opportunity to be screened before there's a crisis. Opportunity to see a specialist without waiting 8 months. Opportunity to actually afford the medication once it's prescribed. Opportunity to take off work for a follow-up appointment without losing the check that pays the light bill. Opportunity to have someone sit down and explain in plain English what a GFR number even means instead of handing you a lab printout and rushing you out the room. That isn't biology, that's access. And access is something we can fight for. Access is something we can build. Biology, we can't change with a movement. Access, we absolutely can. Now, I don't want to leave you with just righteous anger and no action. Anger without a plan is just noise. So let's turn this into something you can actually use starting today in your own family. If you have not had your kidney function checked in the last year, especially if you have diabetes, high blood pressure, a family history of kidney disease, or you're over 40, here is exactly what I want you to say at your next appointment. Say something like this: I'd like to check my kidney function. Can we also do a BMP and test for urine protein? That's it. That's the whole ask. Those labs, write it down, text it to yourself before you walk in. If you already know something's off, if your numbers are trending the wrong way, here's your next script. I'm concerned about my kidney health. Can we talk about a referral to a nephrologist? If you feel like you've been brushed off, and baby, you will know the feeling when it happens, here's what you say: I'd like a second opinion and I'd like this documented in my chart. That last part matters more than people realize. Documentation protects you. It creates a paper trail, and it makes it a little harder to brush you off when you've specifically asked. That last part matters more than people realize. Documentation protects you. It creates a paper trail. It makes it harder for concerns to just quietly disappear. And if you're a caregiver sitting in that room with someone you love, your job is to be the voice when they're too scared or too overwhelmed to ask questions for themselves. Ask the questions, write down the answers, and don't leave until you understand exactly what's happening. This is what I mean when I talk about equity-centered kidney care. It's not a slogan, it's a framework. Detection, navigation, advocacy, support. 4 pillars, and every family needs all 4. Now I want to zoom out for just a minute, because individual scripts and individual appointments are not going to fix a system-level problem by themselves. The disparities we've been talking about today didn't fall out of the sky. They're connected to housing, to education, to environmental exposure, to generations of policies that decided some neighborhoods deserved investments and others didn't. I'm not here to give you a 50-year history lesson, but I need you to understand that when we talk about kidney disease in our communities, we are also talking about everything else that shaped those communities. And that's exactly why this can't just live in exam rooms. It has to live in barbershops, in beauty salons, in church fellowship halls, in group chats where somebody's about to send a meme and instead sends a reminder to their auntie to get her labs done. We change this the same way. We've changed everything that's ever needed changing in our history. Together, loud, informed, and refusing to accept that's just how it is as an answer. You see, I don't believe our communities need more fear. We've had enough fear. What we need is more information. We need earlier conversations at kitchen tables, not just in hospital beds. We need better advocates, people who will speak up when we can't. We need churches talking about kidney disease the same way they talk about everything else that threatens the family. We need barbers talking about blood pressure while they're lining up someone's edges. We need beauty salons talking about diabetes when you're getting that new silk press. We need families asking for urine tests before there's ever a single symptom, because by the time there's a symptom, kidney disease has already been at work for years. Because the future of kidney health in our communities is not going to be changed by one nephrologist working alone in one clinic. It is going to be changed by thousands of informed families who know exactly what questions to ask long before the crisis ever shows up at their door. That's the movement I'm building, and I would truly love for you to be a part of it. Because every family eventually faces healthcare decisions. My job is to make sure you're prepared when it's time to make them. I'm Erica, the Neighborhood NP, and I'll see you in the next one. Make sure you subscribe.